going on, everyone? Great Talon here, and today the prey is going to be Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. In the hot, dreadful summer of 1987, Konami released a sequel to their debut Castlevania game, which honestly was at first received with some mixed reviews but then got better over time. In this sequel, you played as Simon Belmont, who has to go on quite the adventure to vanquish the evil Dracula and his minions while partaking in probably the most cryptic and complex journey of the 8-bit proportions. That caused me to scratch my head numerous times and even use a strategy guide in order to figure out what to do next. So how does Simon Quest stack up against the titular predecessor Castlevania? Well, let's grab your stakes, crossbows, and holy water, and let's find out. Okay, so graphics are up first, and before we begin, I would like to note that I'm reviewing this game on the Castlevania Anniversary Collection on my Switch, which yes is considered emulation from the original games. The color palette is a bit of a 180 from the original Castlevania, seeing as though the deep darkened colors have been replaced here by what almost resembles watercolored sprites. It's honestly to me a step down from the previous game, but not terrible at the end of the day. Plus, there are a bit too many recycled colors when the game changes from its day to night cycle, and when you arrive in different towns, the colors are usually so similar that you have no idea if you're in the right town or which town you're in, because there is no way to indicate that or detect that, nor could I find any signs or any people to tell me which town I'm in or what the hell the frickin' place is called. So that's, I mean, honestly, it's one of the issues Simon's Quest suffers from, and it's cryptology, and we will address that in a bit as well. The diluted visuals can be overlooked, though, by the game's sleek combat and renowned musical score. Next up, onto the gameplay and the controls. So similar to the first Castlevania, Simon's Quest is a 2D side-scrolling action-adventure game, where you will find yourself armed with the whip, lashing at enemies about, but this time around, instead of finding disposable secondary weapons such as holy waters and daggers, you can now purchase them with hearts, which is now your form of currency, and keep them permanently, and can select powers or weapons you would like to use in the item menu, which adds a little bit more of an RPG element and more depth to the game, which I really enjoyed. So like I said, the hearts you collect are your form of capital this time around. And as secondary weapons such as daggers or holy water no longer consume hearts in ammunition form, but instead you can grind for hearts and collect them and buy them from vendors and scattered in towns and locales in the overworld. Also, if you lose all of your lives and get the game over screen, fret not, you can hit the continue, and the good news is you will spawn immediately where you died, but the bad news is you will lose all of your accumulated hearts and have to re-obtain them all over again, which reminds me a bit of our Dark Souls take. So die as many times as you want, but don't expect to keep all of your precious souls and or currency. A trade-off of sorts to keep things interesting and leveled out. Also, I just want to know there's also a change of pace here, as there are no longer linear stages, but rather more of an open world of sorts that requires you to figure out on your own where to go and what to do next, which actually is no simple task, seeing as though whenever you're in a town and talk to the townsfolk, some of the text is either misspelled or leads me to believe that it has not been translated from Japanese properly, from region translations, and makes no sense. This is where a guide comes in super handy, in my opinion. Regardless, I feel like the game is a little too ambitious for its own good, but means well along the way. And if you have a guide handy, or you can, just whip out your phone and look up a YouTube video real quick, you should have no issues with the progression like I did. You will also have new items and gear in your arsenal as well that will help you burn away fake walls by using holy water, or burn up enemies using the sacred firepower, and even become invincible for a short period of time by using laurels, which are magic items that are purchased by vendors that appear and you can actually use to become invincible for a short period of time and make your way through poisonous swamp. Or, you can actually use them to just ward off enemies and just avoid them altogether and not deal with their nonsense. You can also lay down garlic and purchase them from vendors and make vendors appear by just putting garlic on the ground and getting special items and special equipment. Simon can also equip key items that will have various effects and even are actually have various effects, and even such as the red and white and blue crystals that you obtain from people in the map, and other parts of the plot that we will discuss in depth in the next story section. There's also a day-night cycle, which as you can see here, enemies will become stronger at night than in the day, and you can also upgrade your whip actually several times to do more damage. At the end of the game, you get a fire whip, and it's fucking badass. The controls haven't really changed much since the first game, although you may now notice that timing your jumps becomes a bit more complex and crucial than before. As if timed just properly on an edge of a block, say, or surface, you will notice Simon propel his body up higher than normal to make what has become known as, that has been coined the phrase as an impossible jump within Simon's Quest. Also, some of the maps and platforming are a bit weirder now than before. What I mean by this is how whoever designed some of these platforms made them too close together, so they're too close together vertically. So when you jump to the platforms, like in between, you can't jump without hitting your head. So you're forced to, like, you know, fall and possibly to your death at times. There is an easy fix though. If you stand on the very corner of the edge of the surface and jump just at the right time while holding the directional pad left or right, whichever direction you want to go, you can actually make the jump. It's a minor inconvenience to me, but you know, I felt, and I just view it as a small design flaw or hiccup in the development process, but it can be overlooked easily, and it does not break the game in any way, shape, or form. Now a bit about the story and the campaign. So the story picks up right from the previous events as Simon is defeated Dracula in the previous Castlevania. Dracula put a spell on Simon, actually, and it cursed him, and making him die slowly with each passing moment. In order to purge his curse, Simon was beset on a quest to find 5 parts of Dracula in the far reaches of Transylvania, then bring all 5 pieces to Dracula's castle and ignite them in order to resurrect Dracula's soul and destroy it once and for all before time runs out. Now, they don't tell you this, you have to figure this out after you beat the game, but the game is only about, I would say, 5 hours long, meant to be about 5 hours long. If you speed run it, you can get through like an hour and a half, but the game is only about, like I said, but unlike me, it took me nearly 10 hours because I had to figure out what the fuck I was doing and I had to use guides and shit. But like the game, it says to get the good ending, you have to beat it within 7 hours or less, where Simon does not die and ends up killing Dracula's soul once and for all. And you know, these 5 parts not only serve as key items, but also, I just forgot to mention, that they also open up new paths. Equipping Dracula's rib, for example, lets you repel and deflect enemy projectile attacks, whereas equipping Dracula's eyeball will let you break through unbreakable walls without using items such as holy water and so on and so forth. But anyway, even though I managed to defeat Dracula, the game pretty much told me that I took too long in finding all of like Dracula's like artifacts and relics and shit and all of his gear. And after we got to Castlevania, and I put all the stuff in the pot, and I resurrected his soul and all that shit, and I killed him, and it was super easy. The game is super easy too, folks, by the way. It's the easiest Castlevania of all time. But anyway, you got to play this game quick or you're dead. Be quick or be dead is the key here, because even though Dracula is just fucking stupid easy, you know, you're gonna have a bad time if you just take your time or you just don't know what to do. I finished, like I said, 10 hours, and I got the worst ending, which is pretty much where Simon dies with Dracula. So he'll be able to kill Dracula, but at the same time, you're dying too because you took too long in the process. So I don't think I should say spoilers, but I guess spoiler, because I guess some people might get mad, but whatever. It's a 30-year-old game. Get over it. If you haven't played it now, you're not going to play it. But anyway, so that's pretty much it with the story. I enjoyed the story. I thought the story was cryptic and hell. I like mystery, so that's a big mystery for me. And so, you know, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, so now that those sound effects and tunes are in your head until the end of time, so I just want to go on record for saying the sound effects are business as usual from the first game, as you can see and hear. But the music, man, oh man, the music will stick with you possibly forever. And what I mean by that is there are just 2 or 3 melodies in the game, but those few tunes will embed into your brain and dig in like a tick on a deer in summertime and never leave. But it is also very welcome, as it is probably the most catchiest of the catchy tunes I have heard in the Castlevania series thus far to date, next to the main Castlevania theme song. Okay, so now on to the replay value. Moderate, because I found myself pretty satisfied at the end of Simon's Quest, and although I would play this again in a heartbeat because I really loved it, I wanted to soldier on with the other games in the Castlevania collection, and Dracula's Curse was calling my name next. Until, one day I will try to replay this in speedrun it to get the good ending within under 7 hours. But the game is just so damn cryptic and complex, though. It's one of its flaws that I can't find replaying it anytime soon, because you must memorize all the steps and take the right stairs, climb and descend at a certain time, fucking put, you gotta put the proper equipment on and kneel before the lake so the lake drains, or kneel in the right-hand corner so a fucking tornado carries you away. It's so cryptic, but it's so weird, but it's so cool at the same time. But honestly, like I said, replay value is moderate. I mean, unless you're a junkie for this game, you wouldn't want to play it after you beat it the first time. Okay, so now for the overall score, and is it worth your time? I'm going to have to go with an 8 out of 10 here. I mean, as head-scratching the puzzling this game is in terms of navigation and what to do, I cannot help but have a soft spot for it in the end. Sure, you have to use a guide for certain sections to know what you do, unless your IQ is over 9,000 or you're smarter than the average bear, but there is a certain charm here unlike I've ever seen in a classic NES or 8-bit game. Like I said before, its ambition and ingenuity inspires, and by it having frequently used RPG elements as well as a sense of exploration and adventure, coupled with a really cool inventory system and surprisingly unique upgrade system as well, Simon's Quest to me should not be missed or passed up if you are a fan of the Castlevania games or not, or even if you're just fans of little RPG-like adventure titles, little side-scrolling bits. So that's my review for Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. What'd you think? If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Why not subscribe? I'm going to be doing a lot more classic reviews like this because I'm getting back into the old school gaming culture as well as the modern gaming. So that being said, you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for stopping by.